The Bad Batch Season 2 Episode 5 is here, with this week's iteration titled Entombed. Episode 5 brought us a fun Star Wars meets Indiana Jones adventure, with nods to games like Jedi Fallen Order and Horizon Zero Dawn also sprinkled in. Like Episode 4 last week, which largely focused around Tech winning a pod race-like event similar to the Phantom Menace, Episode 5 didn't do much for the larger story's plot of The Bad Batch Season 2, and that's probably not going to sit quite right with many Star Wars fans. There was no Crosshair, Commander Cody, or big Imperial tie-in. We still aren't quite sure as to where the overall story is going for Clone Force 99, but things are sure to soon pick up as we reach the mid-season finale in just 2 weeks. Not everything can be on the level of The Mandalorian Season 3, there are different Star Wars shows for different target audiences. I'm sure many were saying the same things about The Bad Batch Season 2 as they were about Andor during its slow burn of a first few episodes. The best of this season is certainly still to come. However, one thing Episode 5 did not lack was Easter eggs, so let's go over the general plot of today's episode and take a look at some of the things you may have missed. The episode starts with Wrecker and Omega scavenging a junkyard. It turns out they were looking for a new compressor that Tech needed, likely for the Marauder. Omega also grabs some other smaller pieces of junk that she finds to be interesting and possibly valuable. Back at Sid's bar, we find out one of those items is an ancient compass with coordinates to a lost star system, which Fee's droid scans. This easily draws comparisons to the map used to find Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens. It also seems familiar to the Sith Wayfinder, which Rey and Kylo Ren both attempt to use in order to locate Palpatine on the planet Exegol in The Rise of Skywalker. The mention of a potential treasure is enough to pique the pirate's interest. I'm still hoping she'll connect us with another infamous Star Wars pirate sooner or later.
I smell profit!
The coordinates lead to the Kaldar Trinary system. Trinary perhaps referring to the amount of suns the planet orbits, just like the iconic binary sunset we all know and love on Tatooine. After following the coordinates on the compass, the Batch and Fee arrive on the planet. It has been absolutely decimated and made virtually uninhabitable, foreshadowing the episode's end when we learn, perhaps, what exactly caused this. Unsurprisingly, Omega is super stoked about finding some lost treasure, fully buying into the idealized notion Fee is selling her of being an adventurer and not even thinking of the possible dangers they may encounter, and going directly against what Echo wanted to do in Episode 1, that being of course more to help clones like the Bad Batch themselves.
Seen what the Empire's doing throughout the galaxy. We should be doing more.
Looking at the old hieroglyphics that cover the entrance, Fee theorizes they're standing on a Skara Nal, an old pirate legend that traces back to the Ancients, whom Fee says are much older than the Jedi Order. According to Tech, this temple even predates the Republic itself. It could have even predated the Old Republic and the ancient Jedi, or earliest versions of the Jedi. There have only been 2 previous mentions of ancients in Star Wars lore. One comes from a Marvel comic story of Yoda visiting a strange planet plagued by a war between primitive human tribes. The other is far more interesting. The Temple of the Ancients from the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic video game, which belonged to the ancient Rakatan Empire. In any case, Skara Nal is said to contain a mythical Heart of the Mountain, a crystallized stone of immense power. This could also be a reference to the Marvel Comics Yoda run, in which the Jedi Master discovers a living mountain. Perhaps Fee is mistaken, and that was the true Heart of the Mountain. Before they reach it, however, Fee and the Batch go through a classic treasure hunt filled with booby traps, intricate puzzles, and inexplicably complicated mechanisms. It may be a tad derivative of literally any other treasure hunting show and movie, but it works. It's quite literally Star Wars meets Indiana Jones or the Tomb Raider. The puzzles themselves felt very similar to those we encountered in Jedi Fallen Order, especially on the planet Zepho, which many have gone on to now speculate that this Heart of the Mountain is actually a Zepho Entomb, tying in directly to the episode's title, Entombed, and Jedi Fallen Order. The Bad Batch are also attacked by a creature, which is hard to get a good look at, due to its fast movements and the dark tomb lighting. Some are speculating it could have been similar to the Nidak, a creature we encounter on Dathomir, yes, the renegade Sith Lord Maul's homeworld in Jedi Fallen Order. The planet's barren and destroyed surface also isn't too far off from Dathomir's. The group gets separated at one point owing to a cave-in, with Echo, Tech, and Wrecker trapped on one side, while Hunter, Omega, and Fi carry on in the main hallway, where they have to use the compass to rotate the walls to be able to walk across the ceiling, lest they step on the wrong tile and fall to their deaths. Classic booby trap tropes are aplenty in this episode, the rotating hallway itself feeling much like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. One wrong step and you're dead. Hunter accuses Fi of making things up as she goes. This could almost refer to the show itself, or even the Star Wars franchise as a whole. When our group finally reunites and finds the heart of the mountain, which closely resembles a large lightsaber kyber crystal, as soon as they grab the crystal, it activates not just the tomb, but the entire mountain. It turns out this isn't a random treasure chamber, but rather a powerful weapon in the form of a gigantic robotic-like creature with a huge laser beam that can annihilate everything in its path. It's the very weapon that destroyed this planet. Just imagine if the Empire were to get their hands on such a power. Once again, many are pointing to Zepho to explain this mechanical creature. The Zepho was a species that roamed the galaxy thousands of years before the Jedi or Republic. They left the planet Zepho and visited Dathomir, Kashyyyk, and Bogano, and constructed elaborate tombs with many puzzles, just like in this episode. They were force sensitive but fell to the dark side because of a corrupt leader called Kuj. Once Kuj died, what was left of their species journeyed off into the great unknown. During Kuj's reign, he killed many rebels fighting against his rule. It's possible that this mech might have been a tool used to do that, as the Zepho were known to build similar tomb guardians to protect their tombs. Their armor is similar looking to this mech, and they both fire beams of blue energy as their primary attack. While we may never know who built this mech, the Zepho seems like the most likely candidate. If that's the case, this is a really cool tie-in to Jedi Fallen Order. I just love the interconnectedness of this universe. Last season, we even visited the planet Braca with Rex, the world which we first find Cal Kestis on post-Order 66. At the time of the trailers, many thought this would be the Zillo Beast that we encountered in the Clone Wars. Thankfully, this thing won't be as difficult for the team to stop. Fi's droid is lost in the path of this massive energy blast, but luckily, she's backed up her droid's memory core up into her ship's databanks, just like Lando did with his droid L3 in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Fi stops the giant robot, but only after Tech convinces her to return the heart of the mountain to its resting place. Otherwise, it will destroy their ship and leave them stranded on this mysterious planet. In another classic treasure hunting trope, the moment the crystal is returned to its place, the robot doesn't just power down, it begins to self-destruct. The treasure is lost forever, but the batch live to fight another day, until next week. Next week's episode is titled Tribe, leading many to believe this will mark our return to the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk, as shown in the trailers. Is it finally time to meet the young Jedi Gungi, or other Wookiees like Chewbacca or Chieftain Tarful? That will be followed by our 2-episode mid-season finale with the Clone Conspiracy and Truth and Consequences on February 8th, likely when the Empire and larger story will begin to take shape. But that does it for today's video and our breakdown of The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 5, Entombed. What did you think of this episode, and did we miss out on anything? Let us know in the comments below. That does it for today's video, Red Squadron. If you did enjoy, make sure to click the like button and subscribe if you are new. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you. Red 5, standing by.